we are going to see about how to present a case uh, when you get a ear case. Mostly you will be getting CSOM, safe CSOM for pre-finals in your pre-final clinical examination. So before much delay, we will go into the topic. Okay. So name, age, sex, the occupation, residence, that everything you will be knowing for case history taking in the second year in your first clinicals. So now we will start with chief complaints. Okay, case presentation in here. Okay, so what are all the chief complaints? As you know, everything should be asked in chronological order. Okay, so what are all will be the complaints pertaining to year the patient will complain of. Okay, so the symptomatology or the chief complaints. The patient may present with ear discharge or otorrhea. Okay, there will be hard of hearing, hearing loss, then ear pain or earache, which is also called as otalgia. Then your tinnitus. Tinnitus is a ringing sensation on the ear. You will see that what are all the conditions. There will be tinnitus. Then vertigo, oral fullness, itching, itching in the ear. Okay. So these are all the most common symptomatology that your case sheet when you are taking a case of ear, any case, ASOM or CSOM, whatever, the chief complaints should be covering all this. That is, if the patient says, okay, if the patient may not complain of all these things. If it is a case of CSOM, there will be ear discharge, there will be hearing loss, there will be earache. The other things pertaining to the associated conditions there will be. So now we will go into detail, or we have to elaborate this chief complaints as history of presenting illness or presenting complaints. Okay. So what are all the conditions? So first, ear discharge. You are elaborating. Okay. Ear discharge. So what is needed is first you should know the site or the side of the ear. So right from the right ear or left. Okay. So the next is duration. How long? Duration of ear discharge. Okay. So if the duration is shorter duration. If the duration is shorter, it is most commonly seen in acute suppurative otitis media or otitis externa. That is furunculosis. Okay. Seen in acute suppurative otitis media, furunculosis, which is also called as otitis externa. Then if the duration is intermittent, it is seen in CSOM, the safe type or tubotympanic type. Okay, which is also called as mucosal. Then if it is of long duration, longer duration is seen in is CSOM of aticoantral or squamous cell type. Okay, CSOM of aticoantral or unsafe type. Any granulomatous conditions like your tuberculosis, leprosy, and in malignancies. In these conditions, there will be long-standing ear discharge. The next is onset. Okay. So what do you mean by onset? Whether the discharges started to come from the ear all of a sudden, or it started in an insidious pattern. Okay. So what if it is sudden onset? Sudden onset is usually after any acute attack of upper respiratory tract infection. Okay. So sudden is usually it follows upper respiratory tract infection. So the condition is ASOM, in which the discharge will be of sudden onset. If it is insidious in onset, as usual, it will be from CSOM. Okay, CSOM mostly of tubotympanic type. Okay, so the next is from the ear discharge. We have seen side, duration, onset. Next is severity. So severity you will assess by the amount of discharge. Okay, so whether it is profuse or scanty. So profuse discharge is common in CSOM of tubotympanic. Okay, scanty discharge it is seen in CSOM of atrichoantral. So you should not think that unsafe type. If it is unsafe type, there will be uh, large amount of our copious discharge. Okay, so how will you ask the patient whether he has a profuse ear discharge or scanty ear discharge? So okay, profuse. So you could listen to the patient that he or she will say that if he sleeps in the next morning the entire pillow is with discharge, ear discharge. Okay, he'll give the history like that. When I wake up in the morning, there is discharge in the pillow that came from my ear. Okay, so that is your profuse or copious ear discharge. Scanty means he will say only few, or he or she has the feeling of discharge inside the ear. Okay, so the next is your characteristic. So you should not confuse. Profuse means it is a safe ear. Okay, the characteristic of discharge, ear discharge. So it might be watery, mucoid, purulent, and mucopurulent. So according to this, we should come to the uh, diagnosis of what the discharge it might be. Okay. So watery discharge it could be seen in otitis externa. It could be seen in CSF autoria. Okay, where when there is any injury to the temporal bone, there is CSF leak. Okay, so that is CSF autoria. So mucoid discharge is seen in otitis media. I hope you remember that when we were seeing about conditions of the middle ear, that we saw there is a mucoid discharge. Okay, so purulent discharge is seen in furunculosis. Furunculosis, any hair follicle infection of the external auditory canal. Furunculosis. In mastoiditis, when there is mastoiditis, I hope you remember that reservoir sign. Okay, when the entire mastoid cells get infected, the pus, the mastoid hair cells filled with pus, that is called as coalescent mastoiditis, and further it will break down into external aortic canal. Okay, so there will be purulent infection, purulent discharge, mastoiditis, and CSOM of aticoantral. Mastoiditis might be the complication of unsafe CSOM, or mastoiditis as such. It can occur in a separate condition. Okay. So then next, in malignant aortic section also there might be purulent tear discharge. Okay. Malignant aortic section. The next is your mucopurulent. Mucopurulent, there will be mixture of both mucoid and purulent component. Okay, mucoid, there it will be the discharge will be appear as sticky. Okay, so mucopurulent tear discharge is seen in CSOM of safe type. Okay, tubotympanic. So this you should never forget the characteristic of weird discharge. What the from the patient say. Okay. So watery discharge, it will be seen in otitis externa, or CSF autoria, mucoid otitis media. Otitis media is entire middle ear infection. Okay. So from that we are differentiating into if it is mucopurulent, it will be CSF of CSOM of safe type. If it is purulent, it will be CSOM of unsafe type. Okay, or with mastoiditis. Then progress. Okay, what is the discharge progress? If it is intermittent, discharge, it is seen in CSOM of safe type, that is tubotympanic. If it is a continuous discharge, the patient says he or she has hair discharge for a long time continuously. So that might be in CSOM of aticoantral type. Any malignancies, there might be any underlying malignancies or any granulomatous conditions. So the main ideology of this class or this is you should know to differentiate between CSOM of tubotympanic and aticoantral, because every symptomatology will coincide with both CSOM of. You will be able to differentiate otitis externa or if it is otitis media. But the point is where you will be the questions in the viva sessions also, or even in the case presentation, the questions, the examiner will ask the questions pertaining to this differentiation, whether you could differentiate CSOM of safe or unsafe here. Okay, so the next is color of the discharge. Okay, what is the color of the discharge? So what if it is blood stained? So blood stained, it is seen in what are the conditions where there will be blood stained discharge? So in ASOM, in stage of suppuration. Okay, when the TM rupture and when the discharge comes out. So in this stage, when the TM ruptures, there will be a little bit of bleeding. Okay, stage of suppuration. I hope you remember the stages of ASOM: stage of tubal occlusion, stage of pre-suppuration, stage of suppuration, then a stage of resolution and stage of complication. Okay, that you should never forget. And CSOM aticoantral, that is our unsafe. Okay, so if it is bloodstained, there will be CSOM of aticoantral type. Then malignant otitis externa. in malignant auditory eczema. Then any trauma to ear that with traumatic tympanic membrane perforation. Okay, and then any malignancies of the external ear or middle ear. Okay, so this is blood stained ear discharge. Next is your bloody discharge. So there will be frank blood. So you should not confuse. There is blood stain. There is little bit of staining of blood in the discharge. Next is bloody discharge. So blood comes out through the external auditory canal. Okay. So that you could see in trauma to the ear in any road traffic accidents, or if there is any bone fractures. Okay. So rupture of jugular bulb. Jugular bulb is related to floor of the middle ear. Okay. So rupture of jugular bulb. Malignancies. In these conditions, there will be frank blood. Okay. So next is your pulsatile ear discharge, where you will see pulsatile ear discharge. So pulsatile ear discharge is seen in ASOM. Okay. There will be pinhole perforation. That is after the stage of suppuration. The TM has just suppurated, and the TM has just ruptured, and there is pus coming out. Okay. So ASOM with pinhole perforation. You can see the pulsatile ear discharge. That is called as lighthouse sign. Okay. You should not forget. Pulsatile ear discharge can also be seen in internal carotid artery aneurysms. The pulsation of the internal carotid artery will get transmitted. Okay. Coexisting vascular tumor. Any vascular tumor, there will be vascular tumor with otitis media. Okay. And in, as usual, in tumors like glomus tumor, glomus jugulare, glomus tympanicum. Okay. So what if there is associated discharge with retroorbital pain? Okay, I hope you remember that. While discussing the complications of unsafe CSOM, we uh, we discussed about a condition called petrositis. Okay, in petrositis there will be, we saw a TED also, right? So in petrositis there will be discharge with accompanying with the retroorbital pain. Okay, there will be fifth nerve involvement, sixth nerve palsy, and there will be recurrent ear discharge. Okay, so discharge with retroorbital pain will be seen in petrositis, and it will also be seen in localized any brain abscess, meningitis. But this is most important for you. Okay, so if there is associated retroorbital pain, you should rule out petrositis, which is a complication of CSOM of unsafe type. Okay, then the smell of ear discharge. So foul smelling discharge. So foul smelling ear discharges will be seen in atticoantral type. Epithelial type of chronic suppurative otitis media, then any malignancies. Okay, so this coming to pertaining to ear discharge, you should know about the site, duration, onset, severity, the characteristic, how it progresses, the color of the discharge, bloodstain or bloody discharge, whether it is pulsatile or non-pulsatile, whether it is associated with retroorbital pain, and whether the discharge is foul smelling. Okay, so if it is aticoantral or unsafe type, there will be foul smelling ear discharge. Okay, if not, the patient will not complain of foul smelling. It will be odorless. Okay, so the next is hard of hearing. Hard of hearing or impaired or hearing loss, what do you say? So it also, and this also includes the side of the ear, right or left or bilateral, okay, or both sides, and duration, and as usual onset, how it whether the onset is sudden or insidious. Okay, so what are the causes of acquired cause, congenital hard, hearing loss? Well, brief discussion. Hearing loss, congenital hearing loss, torch infection should be ruled out. Okay, congenital hearing loss. So what if it is acquired hearing loss which is of conductive type? So the causes include, from the external auditory canal we will divide external auditory canal, atresia, if there is atresia, wax or foreign body, otitis externa where there is edema of external auditory canal where sound cannot conduct, otitis externa, which can also be malignant otitis externa, keratosis obturans. In these conditions, there will be uh, conductive hearing loss, and any, as usual, malignancy will come at the last. Okay, so you should not put the, even while classifying any causes, when the examiners ask the causes, you should always say the common things first. Okay, so if there is, you could see that wax, this atresia, it will come under congenital. uh, Wax, these foreign bodies, these are all the common things, right? So you should give the symptomatology or give the conditions as if in order that goes like with the common things, and at the last uncommon. So tumors will not be more common in the ear, external ear. Okay, so the tumors, the more worst conditions, that should be at the last. So acquired conductive hearing loss. First we saw external auditory canal. So the next is in tympanic membrane. So tympanic membrane is also contributes to the conduction of the hearing. Okay. So in condition of tympanic membrane, there might be traumatic rupture, traumatic perforation. In otitis media, middle ear infections. Okay. So in middle ear, conductive hearing loss cause it. Middle ear, it will include ASOM, CSOM, otitis media with epicenter, or serous otitis media. Okay, barotrauma, any oral polyp, your otosclerosis. Okay, otosclerosis you should not forget. Huh? As usual, any tumor of the middle ear. Okay, and middle ear, it is anteriorly it is connected with eustachian tube. So you should also rule out eustachian tube and nasopharynx. Okay, eustachian tube dysfunction. any tubal block due to allergy, okay, enlarged adenoids obstructing the eustachian tube, that will cause conductive hearing loss, okay. So the next is you should ask about the when the on asking about hard of hearing, there is another entity called the sudden sensory neural hearing loss. It is a important question for both pre-finals and for your PG aspirant. So I will deal with that in a separate topic. Okay. While discussing the tumors tomorrow, before that I will uh, give a short discussion about sudden sensory neural hearing loss. Okay, so what are all the causes? What is sudden sensory hearing loss and the treatment? So, coming to the symptomatology of the hard of hearing, you should ask the patient when he is able to hear in noisy surrounding or in silent surrounding. Okay, I hope you remember that we were talking about diplacusis, paracusis villi. Okay, that is hearing better in noisy surrounding. That is called paradoxical hearing. So that is seen in autosclerosis. Hard of hearing. If there is diplacusis, okay, which is seen in Meniere's, and if there is fluctuating hearing loss, so fluctuating hearing loss is seen in, if it is conductive, it is seen in serous otitis media. Okay, if it is sensory neural type of fluctuating hearing loss, it is seen in Meniere's. Okay, so that you should not remember. And some other causes include labyrinthine fistula, glomus tumors. Okay, and the next symptomatology will be uh, with pertaining to or association with hearing loss. You should ask whether it is progressive or not. Okay, progressive or not. Progressive means Meniere's, Meniere's autosclerosis. In both the conditions, there will be progressive hearing loss. History of any history of noise trauma. Okay, uh, history of drug abuse or chronic drug intake. So these are all the symptoms pertaining to your hard of hearing. Okay. So a hard of hearing, you should ask the site, duration, onset. Okay. So classifying the hearing loss as conductive and sensory neural. These are all the causes of conductive hearing loss. Okay. And what if there is fluctuating hearing loss? Okay. So the next symptomatology is ear pain. As usual, site, duration, onset. Okay, site, duration for how long, and onset. If the onset is sudden, it is seen in pharyngeal ASOM or any trauma. Okay, if the onset is gradual, so these are all the acute conditions where there will be the pain will be very sudden. In gradual onset, it will be CSOM, malignant otitis externa. and any malignancies, other malignancies. Okay, there will be gradual pain and the type of pain. Okay, whether it is pricking or throbbing or burning pain. Okay, so if there is, you could say, if there is any abscess or any pulse, if there is a acute conditions, in acute conditions there might be pus. Okay, that is acute suppurative otitis media. There will be throbbing pain. Okay, then severity of the pain. You could ask the patient whether the pain disturbs the sleep. Okay, it's as severe as that. Okay, you should ask by pain disturbing sleep. The severe pain is more common in furunculosis. There will be severe pain. Okay, then even in herpes zoster, when herpes zoster infections, there will be severe pain and aggravating factors. Pain is increase of pain during. Okay, if there is increase of pain during chewing or eating, it is common in otitis externa. Okay, this we saw while we are discussing about otitis externa. There will be increase pain when during mastication or during eating. Okay, if there is pain during sneezing and coughing, is common in eustachian tube dysfunction. Like eustachian tube block. Okay, during winter when there is exposure to cold wind, there will be eustachian tube block. And you ask about aggravating factors, you ask, then you should ask the relieving factors. The pain gets relieved, the patient might take something for relieving. Okay, medications, mostly the painkillers or other drugs. There is if it is associated with atoria, with pain with tear discharge. And if there is referred pain, referred pain or referred arteralgia is seen in many conditions. Okay, we'll see that referred arteralgia is seen in dental caries, temporomandibular joint pathologies, or temporomandibular joint arthritis. Okay, in acute tonsillitis, okay, and in the base of tongue tumors, etc. There will be referred pain or referred arteralgia. Okay, so the next symptomatology will be tinnitus. So tinnitus is ringing sound. Okay, ringing sound in the absence of, this is very important, ringing sound perceived by the patient in the absence of any external sound source or any external stimuli. Okay, there won't be any external source for this sound. The patient will complain as if he is hearing a ringing sensation from the inside of the ear. So you should ask side, right or left, or both, duration, how it progresses, then the character of tinnitus. it will be hissing, buzzing sound, or bell sounds. You could not differentiate from the history, but you could ask whether the tinnitus is like ringing of bell, or there are nearly 12 to 15 types of sounds of tinnitus. Okay, that it will go in detail, but to be very precise and very common, bell sounds, hissing sounds, these are all very common. And whether the sound is high pitched or low pitched, whether that ringing sensation in the ear makes the patient sleep disturbances, if there are sleep disturbances to the patient, and if there is any history of drug abuse. Salicylates, quinines, these are the drugs that can predispose to tinnitus. Aminoglycosides, okay, and history of exposure, that is history of noise trauma. So we will see in detail what are all the conditions there will be tinnitus. Okay, so types of tinnitus. In middle ear conditions, what will be the type of tinnitus? Okay, it's constant or pulsatile tinnitus. It is seen in traumatic tympanic membrane perforation. Okay, so in autosclerosis there will be constant tinnitus. ASOM, ASOM there will be pulsatile discharge and there will be pulsatile tinnitus. Glomus, also there will be pulsatile. Okay, so this is in conditions of middle ear. In cochlear or in inner ear, what will be the type of tinnitus? So middle ear, it is usually low pitched tinnitus. Okay, cochlear or inner ear there will be high pitch. Tinnitus will be of high pitch. So it is seen in autotoxicity, usually your aminoglycosides. Then your Meniere's is alright, and Meniere's disease. There will be vertigo, hearing loss, tinnitus, and oral fullness. Mixed cochlear neural tinnitus, mixed cochlear plus neural. It is seen in presbycusis. And then syphilis. So neural, only neural. Neural means after the cochlear. Okay, cochlear is sensory part. Neural is the nerves, neural pathway. It is usually unilateral, constant, and high pitched. Okay, so it is seen in acoustic neuroma. Acoustic neuroma, vestibular neuroma. We will see that tomorrow when we are discussing the tumors. Tumors. Okay. So these are all the types of tinnitus and the conditions in which you are seeing. So you should not forget what is tinnitus and what are the associated conditions you should ask. What are the characteristics of tinnitus, whether it is high pitched or low pitched. Okay. So tinnitus not only for your clinical examination, even in your theories in uh, 2 marks or 5 marks also they can ask. Okay, so the next is vertigo. Vertigo, we saw while discussing about your vestibular physiology. Okay, so the patient will say as if he cannot maintain the balance. Okay, so it is a sense of rotation experienced by the patient in relation to environment. Okay, so he will say as if the patient is moving or the environment is moving. Okay, so vertigo duration, uh, episodes, whether it is constant or periodic, the frequency of attacks, how frequent, precipitating factors, relieving factors, and its further association with hearing loss or otorrhea. Okay, so coming to vertigo as such, we should classify as episodic. So episodic vertigo from seconds to hours. Okay, seconds to hours, and if it is prolonged means it's up to weeks. Okay, so short duration of episodic vertigo is seen in BPPV or your benign personal paroxysmal vertigo or a labyrinthine fistula in your caloric tests, Fitzgerald-Halpick test, and vertebrobasilar insufficiency. So when there is vertebral artery, basilar artery, if there is any uh, ischemia in that, okay, means ischemia or emboli, there will be vertigo. Okay, so these are seen short duration vertigo where the vertigo loss for seconds. If the vertigo is seen more than or loss for horse, it is seen in Meniere's labyrinthitis. Okay, following any middle ear surgeries. But Meniere's and labyrinthitis most important. Okay, so prolonged vertigo more than 24 hours. It is seen in vestibular neuronitis, trauma, and or any in vascular lesions. Okay, so this is the basic about basics you should know about vertigo and its association with vertigo with otorrhea or with any hearing loss. Okay, so the next is your fullness, oral fullness. Oral fullness is the patient will say that there is blocking sensation in ear. So blocking sensation in ear, it is usually seen in eustachian tube obstruction in Meniere's. Okay, in eustachian tube obstruction, because the middle ear cannot be ventilated, the patient may experience as if there is a ear block. Okay, tube obstruction leading to your otitis media with effusion, and the next is any itching in ear. It is seen in allergy, automycosis, impacted wax, or foreign bodies. Okay, so then these are the most. I hope we have completed the history part. So, history part: ear discharge, hard of hearing, earache, tinnitus, vertigo, oral fullness, itching. So, we have completed each and everything. So, this entire thing should be in your history. Okay, if even if there is no, if the patient says as if no complaints of vertigo or your hearing loss, you will be presenting as there will be no issue, and there will be the questions next to that. So what are all the conditions there will be oral fullness, what are all the conditions there will be vertigo. Okay, or in response to, in with relation to your case, CSOM, where you could say the patient has vertigo. Okay, so you should be very thorough with this. Next, a small history will be on history related to the etiology. Okay, so in ASOM, CSOM, there will be eustachian tube obstruction. There will be eustachian tube obstruction due to nasal obstruction, nasal discharge. Okay, any throat pain. All these conditions, there will be infection migrating, or any through this there will be eustachian tube blockage, or there will be eustachian tube infection going into the eustachian tube into the middle ear. Okay, so this is the symptoms of etiology. You should ask this history of etiology, and if there is any change of voice. Okay, so next, as usual, your personal history, your treatment history, your obstetric history will come. Personal history, treatment. I'm not going into the detail, as you would have already know about this. And if it is a female patient, obstetric history, because of autosclerosis was most common in third decade in females, in pregnant females. Okay, so next is your examination. You have completed the history part. Examination will not take that much time. Okay, so coming to examination, general examination, that your as usual, your conscious oriented, that things will come. Now coming to the local examination. Okay, so local examination of the ear. So we should go step by step. First is pinna. What are all the possible anomalies, or what are all the possible things you should look for pinna? Okay, size. So there might be anosmia, even the pinna might be absent. Microtia, macrotia. Okay, so you should rule out the congenital anomalies. And if there is in pinna, if there is any pre-auricular sinuses, pre-auricular tags. Okay, and pinna per se, you should look for any swelling. Swelling will be seen. We already saw while we were discussing about the conditions of the external ear: hematoma, abscess. Okay, that is your perichondritis. there is any if there is swelling associated with any discharging sinus or any keloid ulceration, vesicles which will be seen in herpes zoster, okay? So any growth in pinna, any malignancies, okay? So while examining the pinna, you should see the size of the pinna, the preauricular region, if there is any sinuses or any tags, okay? You should inspect that, and if the pinna, if there is any swelling, so pinna there is what to say, tragus, antitragus, helix, antihelix, your concha, sympaconcha, scaphoid fossa. Okay, I hope you are well versed with the anatomy. So, and palpation, you should look for the local rise of temperature in the pinna. So it would be seen in perichondritis. The pinna will be warm and tender. Okay. So this is palpation of the mastoid, looking for mastoid tenderness. Okay, which will be seen in mastoiditis. Okay. So and palpation of the preauricular region. You should palpate. Look for any scar, swelling, any lymph nodes. Okay, preauricular lymph nodes or parotid nodes. If there is any cellulitis, so this will come under post-auricular palpation of the post-auricular region. Okay, so this is your auricle, this is your post-auricle, this is your pre-auricle. For post-auricular region, there will be you should palpate the mastoid for the mastoid tenderness. So this is your mastoid tip. Okay, and there's a common test called your three finger test. This is for 3 point. This is also called as 3 point tenderness. How will you do? Middle finger, pressure over the concha. Okay, index finger over mastoid process, and thumb over mastoid tip. Okay, so this is your concha, your mastoid process, mastoid tip. Okay, your concha will be here. This is your mastoid process, and where he is keeping his finger, this is your mastoid tip. So this three finger test or 3 point tenderness test is usually done to elicit in conditions of mastoiditis. Okay, if in mastoiditis, this test will be positive. Okay, then coming to the external auditory canal. External auditory canal, you should look for any narrowing. Okay, Narrowing of external aortic canal is seen in atresia. The narrowing is occurred following post-operative surgeries. Okay, atresia arteries externa. In the external aortic canal, you should look for any wax, keratosis obturans, and any discharge. If there is any discharge, you should mop it up and then you should look into the tympanic membrane. Okay, discharge if there is any polyp, any swelling. So, external auditory canal is viewed by pulling the pinna in the adults. Okay, pulling the pinna outwards, backwards, and laterally because the cartilaginous part is going upwards, backwards, and medially. Okay, so that we are pulling the cartilaginous part, so that the cartilaginous part and the bony part will come in a straight line, so that we can visualize the tympanic membrane. So this is your external auditory canal, and you should be looking for these conditions. And if there is any sagging of posterior wall of external auditory canal, I hope remember it is seen in mastoiditis. Okay, these are the things you should check for the inspection of the external aortic canal, and then palpation there is tragus sign. Okay, you should press the tragus and check for tenderness. If the tenderness is plus or if the tenderness is present, tragus sign positive. Okay, so this is seen in otitis externa and in acute suppurative otitis media in suppurative stage of acute suppurative otitis media. Okay, so the next is tympanic membrane, the most important part. Okay, so tympanic membrane, what you will look by your you will not be pre-finals will not be provided with otoscope with your normal torch. Okay, we'll be looking for cone of light, color. So whether the cone of light is present or distorted. If there is perforation, there won't be cone of light. Okay, the color of the tympanic membrane purely white, that is normal. Okay, so red and congested is seen in acute suppurative otitis media. Glomus, okay, so bluish seen in secretory otitis media, and autosclerosis, that is what a Schwartz sign. Okay, and if there is any fluid levels seen in serous otitis media. So, okay, so tympanic membrane will inspect for the cone of light, the color of the tympanic membrane, and the position, whether it is bulged or retracted. So bulge, it is seen in acute suppurative otitis media, otitis with effusion. Retracted tympanic membrane is seen in atelectasis, adhesive otitis media. Okay, retraction is seen in eustachian tube obstruction. The stages of retraction This is stage 3, stage 4, okay? Grading of retraction. So I hope what is a retracted tympanic membrane, the characteristics of retracted tympanic membrane. Dull tympanic membrane, the cone of light will be absent. The malleolar folds will be prominent, okay? Go on revise. The side is grading. And then if there is any perforation, okay? So look for cone of light, the color, position of tympanic membrane. Then you should look for any perforation. Perforation, whether it is small, medium, subtotal, marginal. This will come subtotal or total. But this will come under central perforation, where the annulus will be intact, okay? Fibrous annulus. Then your this is central perforation. Then marginal or attic perforation. This is in unsafe type, okay? So look for the perforation of tympanic membrane. And if you could see any, if the perforation is so large, you could see the structures of the middle ear. So usually you could see the medial wall of middle ear, the promontory, sometimes ossicles, eustachian tube opening. If it is visible, you can write as visible. Or if it is a large perforation, or if it is a total or subtotal perforation, this will be visible, okay? Uh, Total perforation will not come under central perforation, okay? Sorry, subtotal. And marginal perforation on total perforation where the annulus also will be eroded, okay? So with this we have completed the examination of the ear, the and tympanic membrane inspection and palpation. Next you will be examining the other systems, that is your examination of any system. If the case is about ear, you should examine the nose and throat. So if the cases of throat, you should examine the other two systems. So even here you should examine the neck for nodes and examination of the nose. We will see that what are all you should see in examination of nose while we are discussing about nose cases, and examination of throat, that should be done. And last but not the least is functional tests, okay? So functional tests of ear, that is your tuning fork test. So tuning fork test, Rinne's, Weber, absolute bone conduction, Schwabax, okay? So this four I have discussed already in detail. So this you should know to differentiate conductive hearing loss and sensory neural hearing loss, and to know the side of hearing loss, okay? So this is the functional test of the ear. You should interfere the results with the examination findings, okay? The vestibular function test for pre-finals, it is not much necessary. And before that, forgot examination of facial nerve. It's never ear examination is never complete without the examination of facial nerve. Okay? So examination of facial nerve, as you check in your Central nervous system examination, facial nerve examination should be done. Okay, like you should look for a deviation of angle of mouth, closure of eyes, closure of eyelids. Uh, then you should check the taste sensation to anterior to third. Okay, whether the patient can blow, should ask the patient to frown his forehead, ask the patient to whistle. So these things will come under facial nerve because facial nerve palsy is a complication of chronic suppurative otitis media of it can be seen in both safe and unsafe type. Okay, and finally the functional test of ear and the other system examinations. So it will conclude and then comes your provisional diagnosis. Okay, provisional diagnosis you will according to the case that has been given to you, a case of chronic, the patient such so and so with name. You will include with name, age, from, and a case of chronic suppurative otitis media of you should write as not safe or unsafe, mucosal or squamosal type, and with or without complications. Okay, if there is complication, you should write what are the complications. Mostly for you, there won't be any complications. The case will be given as for pre-final years, safe year without any complications. Okay, and then as usual, the examiners will be so the next while presenting the case, I think the case presentation is on Friday. So after completing your case, it is never complete without writing the investigation. After the provisional diagnosis, you should go for investigations. So the routine blood investigations in CSOM, you should go for before X-ray mastoid examination under microscope. Examination under microscope. Okay, if there is a discharge, first culture and sensitivity from discharge. We have seen this already while we are seeing CSOM. Uh, X-ray mastoids. After X-ray mastoids, your CT, CT temporal bone, and your pure tone audiogram to know the hearing loss. Okay. So blood investigation will include everything, your CBC, TCDC, ESR, everything, and your pure tone audiogram to know the type of hearing loss, type, degree of hearing loss. Okay. And finally, here comes the treatment part. Treatment pertaining to your case, what you should do. If it is a case of chronic suppurative otitis media, if, if your case is given as a dry ear, according to that, the treatment should be okay. Whether it should be laryngoplasty or if it is associated, if the surgery is done along with repairing of the ossicles, it is called a tympanoplasty. Okay, if it is unsafe here, going with mastectomy, intact canal wall, or canal wall down. So this will be the entire presentation, starting with the history, all the history elaboration of each and every complaints, and with the examination, local examination. You should start with your examination of the external ear, your pinna, preauricular region, postauricular region, palpation of the pinna, preauricular and postauricular region, and the examination of tympanic membrane, external auditory canal and tympanic membrane, and if there is any perforation, through that if any middle layer is visible, any middle layer structures are visible, and examination of facial nerve. This will come here. The other systems, examination of nose and throat will come at last, and then functional test. You should never miss that. Okay, your tuning fork test, Rennie Swabbers, absolute bone conduction, and Swabax, and your provisional diagnosis, the investigations and treatment. So, okay, so this is how you take a case. Not this is coming to for year for any system. It may, even it may be a surgery, general surgery or general medicine. Any case, it is never complete without investigations and treatment. Okay, pertaining to that case, your case, you should not write as if total. You should not write what you know, but you should write to your case what are all the investigations you will take and what are all the treatment. After that, the Viva session will start. Okay, so we have completed the session of case presentation or how to take a case of year. Okay,